Good morning. This is Clinton Miner from Sage to Sawtooth Bushcraft with an update on the coronavirus situation. And today we're going to try and do something a little different to give you some practical advice at the end of the video. Where we are today is kind of where we would expect to be. We now have confirmed cases in at least 50 countries. That's an addition from yesterday of 6 new countries. That's Greece, Denmark, Romania, Pakistan, Macedonia, and Estonia. All now have confirmed cases, and that number almost certainly is going to grow with the epicenters happening in Italy and South Korea. We also have reports that the United Kingdom has some additional cases, but more importantly, their Ministry of Health is finally falling into line, as a number of countries are, and acknowledging that there's a very high likelihood that they're going to have emerging cases, that they're going to start seeing some native infections going on there, as what they've seen in Italy. Let's go back then to some of these numbers. Again, China, it's there, it's happening. Whether or not we're getting appropriate numbers out of it, there isn't a lot of spread from China anymore, or if there is, we're not seeing it. It's going to be continuing to do what it does in China. Let's look at the countries that have now begun their own epicenters, and the first one we want to look at is South Korea. South Korea has 505 new cases. Keeping in mind that it's only been a week ago that we had 54 total cases. We now have 1,766 cases. That's an explosion. The other thing that's a very big concern is that even though that it's only been in South Korea for a very short period of time, we already have 13 deaths. Now, on the other side, South Korea has been very aggressive about taking action on this, maybe a little bit behind the ball, maybe after the horses are out of the barn, but they are moving forward with this. Currently, according to the statistics that I'm seeing, they have 21,000 tests that have been taken that are now being processed. They are looking for the people who are sick. They've closed down all public interaction situations, churches, schools, civic groups, any kinds of concerts or sports activities. Those are all shut down by government order for at least the next 10 days. A very appropriate step to take to try and slow this down. One of the things that's important to those of us here in the United States is we have a confirmed case for one of our soldiers, one of the United States military soldiers, a member of the United States Army, has been tested positive with the coronavirus. As a result of that, 2 things have happened. The United States has limited or cut off all interaction, all group activity beyond the need for the actual military with our soldiers over there in South Korea. They can't go to bars or to churches or those kinds of things off base. We have also taken steps. There was going to be a huge joint activity between the United States military and the Korean military, and that has been canceled. And that's just an appropriate step at this point to take. So things are exploding, as I said, in South Korea. One of the things that's a bit of a concern we'll talk about, or that we can talk about at this point, is that both South Korea and Italy, we still have flights. We have open flights from South Korea and Italy here in the United States. That's an oversight, I believe. I believe that we really need to look at least limiting those flights from those 2 countries where we know that there are substantial numbers of this condition, that there's an explosion and that it's spreading quickly. It's in all provinces of South Korea, so it really is something we need to take some steps toward. Difficult to do with someone who is with a country that is that much of an ally of ours, but some steps need to be taken. Same kind of situation with Italy. Italy has now 528 cases again. Just over a week ago, we were looking at 3 cases. So from 3 to 528 cases. 53 of those are new from yesterday. We're seeing numbers a little slower than the explosion in South Korea. If you follow those numbers and the exponential growth that happened in South Korea, we're still seeing some very, very aggressive growth in Italy, but it isn't the same explosive growth that we're seeing in South Korea. But probably a bigger concern is we have, with 528 confirmed cases, we have only that many cases, we have 14 deaths. That's a real concern as well. An indicator more than likely that we are not seeing all of the cases. We're only seeing a sample of the cases due to limited testing or due to I don't think Italy's trying to hide anything, but I think it's probably a situation where people are simply not getting tested. There is lockdown in Italy as well. That's been a good step. A little side note on that: there's a cruise liner from Italy. It's the MSC Meraviglia, I guess is how you'd say it. That is in the Caribbean, and they have some sick individuals on that boat, and because of that, Jamaica, the Cayman Islands, and Mexico have all denied them portage, and so they're kind of floating lost in the Caribbean. Probably going to have to go back to Italy. That's a very, very disconcerting situation. We don't want to have another Diamond Princess situation. Moving on then to the United Kingdom. The ministry, as I said there, has indicated that they're expecting the emergence of additional cases, and that is important, as is the announcements day before yesterday from the CDC and yesterday from President Trump, indicating that we are ramping up, understanding that we are going to have it here. It's just a matter of when and how we can slow it down enough so that we don't have an overwhelming number. So good things are happening there. On the other hand, as I said, it is a little bit disconcerting that we're still allowing open flights from both South Korea and Italy. I believe that it would be appropriate to slow that down, or at least have some quarantine options there, or maybe just shut off all flights. People are starting to see that there's got to be some slowing of this interaction so that we can be prepared for these things. France only has 18 confirmed cases, but they've got 2 deaths. Again, that would indicate to me that we have probably more cases in those countries, but that, that either the testing isn't happening, or that people are just not seeking testing because they're confusing this with just the seasonal flu. Finally, as far as numbers, we look at Iran. There are, let's take a look. As of today, there are 245 cases in total. 106 of those happened overnight. It's interesting. I watched Dr. John Campbell, and I have touted his site numerous times. He gives many numbers in his case studies, but more importantly, he helps us understand the medical aspect of this. He also has medical colleagues around the world that are providing him with inside information that he doesn't hold out as absolutely valid, but he feels confident. He has confidence in those sources, and so he's sharing that with the public. And I'll talk about that here in just a minute. But his numbers this morning were, his morning would have been a few hours ago, 7 or 8 hours ago. His numbers were about half the growth of what I'm seeing on the Worldometer. I've got, I'll put that Worldometer up. It's got these numbers. You see South Korea, 505 new cases, Italy, 58 new cases, Iran, 106 new cases, Japan, 35 new cases. And so we're starting to see some hot spots in all of those areas, as well as the death tolls in some of those countries that are very concerning. Iran, for example, has 26 deaths with only 245 cases, 106 of those that are new. What does that mean? It means that things are progressing the way we had hoped they would not. One of the problems in Iran is that the onset of this in their country happened at probably the most inopportune time that it could have. There were celebrations of the Islamic Revolution that occurred back in the 70s. There were celebrations, or actually not celebrations, but mourning ceremonies for the terrorist guy that was killed by the United States military in Iraq. There's a certain number of days that they mourn that, and the end of that period, which is a part of their mourning process, occurred right about the same time as the celebration of the Islamic Revolution. They've left their various shrines open, and so there are huge population density situations where people are going to those shrines during a holy part of their religious ceremonies. And so we're going to see a real explosion in Iran. One of the things that's happening also is that the people from Iran are sharing it with other countries, and other countries are sending pilgrims. People are going there to those religious shrines as a part of Islam, and they're taking it back to their countries. And some of these countries we see, Pakistan, for example, may be related to that Iranian situation. So we really have some growth. Dr. John Campbell is reporting that his colleagues on the ground in Iran are reporting a 5% death rate among those who have the condition. The CFR is what they call that. It's the confirmed fatality rate, I believe is what that stands for, is 5%, more than double, or approximately double what has been expected in the other circumstances in these cases. Folks, it's just a matter of time before we have these conditions here in the United States. Our hope is not to hope that we won't have it here in the United States. Our hope is that we can contain it in a way that slows the progress of the condition down, so that as people get sick, we can deal with it. If ultimately we have 40 to 60%, which are the numbers that have been talked about, 40 to 60% of the population contracts this disease, that doesn't mean that it has to all happen at once, like it's happening, it appears to be happening in Korea. I mean, it's exploding. If we can slow that down so that we spread that 40 to 60% over a year or 2 years, and thereby limit the number of individuals at any given time who have the condition, what that also does is, of the individuals who have the condition, 18 to 20% have either severe or critical conditions, need hospitalization. If we have 10% and 10%, 10% of the population spread out, we can control the numbers enough so that there are enough hospital beds to deal with those critical cases. And how do we do that? Well, I'm going to say it again: wash your hands, wash your hands, wash your hands. Limit public contact as it gets here. Eye protection and face and nose masks are going to help. It won't be long before you see what I don't like, and that's I'm going to have to shave off my at least my beard, and I'm not much of a mustache guy, so probably my full goatee is going to go. I'll have to do that as soon as we start seeing some confirmed cases here in the United States. I'll be shaving that off so that I can use the mask, and so that I don't have a breeding grounds hanging under my nose. We need to take those precautions. Folks, you need to think twice about when you see your friends and family, giving them a hug. You don't want to share with them. They don't want to share with you. Soon we'll also probably need to start doing something different than shaking hands. One of the Richard McConkey, who made some earlier videos with me about this coronavirus, and I were talking about that, and we were doing elbow bumps. It would be a great thing for a limited time for us to move to something like that if we have to be in that close proximity, and if we have to have some physical contact with each other, we hit something that we're not going to be touching, that isn't going to have a lot of the condition. Even better is to maintain some distance. 5 or 6 feet is going to make a huge difference in, maybe actually 6 to 7 feet is going to make a huge difference in how much of this condition gets spread. So take those steps, be looking toward those things. Hopefully we won't have to shut down the way they've had to shut down in South Korea, but if we do, be prepared for that as well. If you're a parent who has children in school, you need to be now preparing ways to take care of those kids if they are not going to be able to go to school. If the school is closed for a couple of weeks or 4 to 6 weeks, which may be the case, you need to have some kind of plan for what's going to happen with those children as that happens. And I actually am going to be talking with a school district in the next couple of days about what the plan is for online homeschool situations while those shutdowns may happen. But even if your kids have got some homework to do while they're home, there needs to be somebody supervising them, and so you need to be planning for that. Finally, as I promised, I want to share something. Now, I want you to know that I'm not sponsored by anybody, how I wish, but I have a product that I think is, other than the food that I shared in an earlier video, and I will refer back to that earlier video. I'll put a link to it in my description so you can look at that. I'll put a link to Dr. John Campbell and a link to my earlier video about securing some foodstuffs. But the next thing I want to share with you is what I believe is the next most important thing you can get. You should have some bottled water. You should have some, whether that's water that you've put into appropriately food safe containers out of your tap right now, or whether it's you go buy water at your local supermarket at Costco. Get some bottled water so you don't have to deal with those kinds of things. But if circumstances get really bad and for some reason there's some interruption in the flow of water that's safe to drink, I highly recommend one of the best products there is out there for someone who's in the process of preparation for these kinds of issues, and that is the Sawyer water filter. Again, as I say, I don't get anything as a result of this. I am going to put a link to Amazon where you can purchase these, and full disclosure, I am an Amazon affiliate, so if you purchase these, I get a small commission for pushing some sales to Amazon. But the key there is it doesn't change the cost to you. Amazon simply splits a little bit with me for thanking me for helping you to look there. I tell you that you can get these about anywhere. You can purchase them at Walmart, any place that sells sporting good equipment. You look there first, but if not, particularly if you're an Amazon Prime member, you're going to get the same price you would at almost any store, within 50 cents to $1 of the difference. And the key here is that these are under $20. This is a product that for under $20 is an amazing deal. It will clean, as it says here. I don't know if it's there on the side. It will purify up to 100,000 gallons of water. And the reason it'll do that is because of some of the pieces that come with this product. Now, I want to tell you that the price at under $20 is an amazing thing. I have been purchasing water purification devices for 30 years at least. And when I first started buying water purification pumps, filters, I can remember having to beg, borrow, and steal to get enough money to spend the $100+ that I was spending for a filter that would do a couple hundred gallons. This product at under $20 and 100,000 gallons is an amazing situation. I'm going to go ahead and open it and just show you a couple of things. The front part, this is the actual filter. The value of that is it can be used a number of ways. One of those is that you can simply attach this straw to the pure end and stick the filter right in a mud puddle, a lake, a stream, heaven forbid, even a toilet, and drink directly out of it like you would some of the other products like a Life straw. Additionally, it is threaded on the backside so that you can put it on a water bottle, just a water bottle from your local convenience store, or a water bottle from Costco, whatever the case may be. Put the dirty water in the water bottle, and again, drink directly from this product. You can hook it into your Camelback or other hydration device, or it comes with a little bag that you can fill up with the water that needs to be purified. Hook it into that threaded device, and either hang this bottle and allow gravity to push it through the filter, or squeeze this. Like I have said in previous videos, last summer I was up at Redfish Lake, a lake up in the Sawtooth Mountains, sage to Sawtooth Bushcraft, up in the Sawtooth Mountains. I watched some hikers come out of the primitive area, an area where you can't take any kind of vehicle, and they went right straight down to the lake, filled this bottle up, and put the filter on, and then squeezed this bottle into their drinking water bottles, their canteens and water bottles, and within about 15 minutes filled 6 different canteens, 2-liter, liter or liter and a half canteen slash bottles with pure, fresh, cold water. So this is an incredible product. The last thing that comes with the Sawyer filter is this syringe, and what it does for you is after you've used the filter itself for a period of time, it will start to clog up because it's simply just a filter. It's and as the particles go in, the small, minute particles of sediment and the junk you're trying to get out of the water, it will clog that filter up. So this is made to screw on to the. You fill this with pure water, screw it into the clean end, and squirt it back through, and it blows water back through the filter, cleaning that sediment out so you keep it clean. And that's how this filter, this small filter, can do up to 100,000 gallons. So, folks, a great product, something that you can have on hand. If you don't use it during this crisis, you can use it camping. You can use it in what may be a future crisis. And at the price range, it's something, if you put it on a shelf and never use it, it's not going to be a waste of money. It's going to be something that gives you some confidence in the future. You don't want to be lost, as we say. You don't want to feel lost when there's no water to feed your kids or your wife or your family or your husband, because a lot of you preppers out there are the women who have got the brains enough to be doing this, even though your husband may not. Get yourself a Sawyer water filter, get yourself some food, get yourself some bottled water. Again, whether that's stuff you put together or stuff that you purchase at the store. And if possible, and we'll talk about this again in just a little bit, but if possible, get yourself some symptom treatment medications so that you can be ready if this hits and affects your family. Folks, if you don't do that, you're going to feel lost. And as we say here at Sawtooth Bushcraft, if you're prepared, you're never really lost. Thank you.